The simple answer is enforce ordinances. But I don't want to just give a general answer like that. How do you specifically enforce ordinances? What would I do if I were the mayor? Well, I would do something that used to happen a long time ago, and it happens in cities elsewhere. You get your fire marshal, your building inspector, you get your team that's supposed to be enforcing ordinances, your blight officer. They go out together in the neighborhood and they inspect these properties, all properties. And guess what? Properties that are not in compliance, you fine them. The fines actually end up paying for the position. So there's no additional dollars to your budget. In so doing, you've ensured the quality of life in your city. Because the problem that you're talking about is a degradation to the quality of life in South Norwalk and ultimately to other areas in this city. I mean, I'm being told that we've got some crazy things going on in houses in nice parts of our city that fire marshals need to be going into, but we can't afford the fire marshals. Well, let's charging the fines. Let's start enforcing the penalties, the things that are already on the books. And if they're not there, let's put some things on the books. Because at the end of the day, it's about the quality of life, upgrading the standards of life, upgrading our housing stock here in the city of Norwalk, and making sure it's affordable. Thank you very much. I will begin that immediately.
I agree with Bruce on that. It's about an enforcement issue. One thing the city does very well, it enforces our taxes. You don't pay your taxes, they'll take your house. Okay? And we all know it, right? So you pay the city of Norwalk before you do anything. We do not enforce our ordinances, and that is a problem. One of the additional challenges that South Norwalk has is it's an older area. It was an industrial area, but that's why this neighborhood needs more protection in terms of the violations for the noise and blight and other things that impact the quality of life. So I would immediately start enforcing ordinances the same way we do our taxes and start issuing fines, and it would pay for the various inspectors that have to go out and do that. South Norwalk should not be penalized for the history of some of these factories and contractor yards that have been there. So enforcement, I agree with Bruce.
If the problem is not that they're doing something illegal, but they're doing something permitted, and we've gotten out of control, and we let too many contractor yards be created, and we're permitting too many contractor yards, and the solution is a different one. The solution is telling the folks who are giving the permits across the counter that they can give no more permits across the counter. And that if somebody has a problem with that, they can come see the mayor and explain to me why they desperately need the permit. And we can send our enforcement officers out to make sure that each of these locations is obeying the ordinances. Now, I know that we've had complaints about contractor yards forever, and some people are not obeying the ordinances, and they do need to be fined, and they do need to be taken to court, and we've done it. I know that we should continue doing it, and we're probably, as Lisa said, not enforcing it as hard as we could, because we expect that this is an area that you're going to find more of it. Well, that expectation should be changed. We should got, as the mayor can do, and if I'm mayor, I can make sure that the change occurs. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, there are contractors' yards, and Mr. Dumas mentioned Amic. Amic was a mess. They had big dumpsters piled up on top of each other, rodent infested, and we stepped in. I sent not only my officers down there, my enforcement officers, I sent my lawyer down there, my corporation counsel. We got that place cleaned up. And now, the contractor, by right, could have 10 to 15 contractor yards in there, the property owner. We are working with that owner and trying to acquire that property so we can put more affordable or sustainable housing on that property. We've worked with somebody from the Jonathan Rose Company that did a project in Stamford called Metro Green, where you have market rate, affordable, and subsidized housing all in the same unit. So we're trying to work with him on that. Now, when Mr. Dumas and others from the South Norwalk Citizens for Justice came and talked to me, we spoke, we took action on things. I know he's talking about the yard with the wood. Sometimes people don't like to hear the answer that you give them, but you have to be honest and give them that answer. I've had several meetings where I brought my staff in and explained the situation. And as far as enforcement, I would ask anybody who's interested in knowing to come and look at the enforcement we do. We have records, we issue cease and desist orders, and we find people who don't obey those cease and desist orders. In fact, our blight officer has received, we've received more than $200,000 already in blight fines. So we're doing our job, and we're doing it well, but sometimes there's a process you have to follow. You don't just find somebody, you have to put it in court, you have to cease and desist order, and they have a right to appeal. And then it goes into court, and then eventually you can have the fines. But we are enforcing all the ordinances in the city of Norwalk, and we're doing it well. Thank you.
I would challenge the notion that we're forcing. I'll give you a good example. There's a house on the corner of Henry and Chestnut Street. I think many of you know it. And you look at the very back of it, there's another house that's falling down. It's falling in. 17 Chestnut Street. Okay? The city, after Mr. Dumas went out there and made big issues about it, the city said, you're right, this is a really serious hazard. Okay? I think that was like in August. All right? They had 30 days to do something about it. Well, 30 days went by, they're still sitting there. The building needs to be torn down. It's a serious hazard. So we're not enforcing. We need to make certain, guess what, if I give you an order that says it needs to go down, I think the person might have asked for another extension. And people with money keep asking for extensions forever and forever and forever. You know, we just got to get tougher about what we do. And I don't think we're being tough enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing would be sitting